Good day, guys. I'm gonna tackle about trait theory and behavioral theory. Trait theory. But first, let us know what is a trait. It basically defines a personality in terms of identifiable patterns of behavior. A trait can be thought of as a relatively stable characteristics that causes individuals to consistently behave in certain ways. A trait is something that you only possess, like being honest or responsible or being loyal, compassionate, yung mga ganon. And it basically makes you unique to others. So, pag-usapan na natin yung about sa trait theory. Trait theories of leadership identify the specific personality traits that distinguish leaders from non leaders. They are based on the premise that leaders are born, not made. That leadership is largely innate rather than being developed through learning. Kapareho ito ng sinasabi ng The Great Man Theory na ang leadership qualities is largely innate or na-acquire mo na siya inborn. But unlike trait theory na pwede mong ma-acquire yung mga leadership qualities through learning, training, and practice. Trait theory argues that leadership qualities or traits can be acquired. Unlike great man theory na inborn na daw yung pagiging leaders. The trait theory of leadership states that there are certain identifiable qualities or characteristics na sinasabi ko nga kanina that are unique to leaders, and those good leaders possess such qualities to some extent. These theories help us identify traits and dispositions that are helpful when leading others. This theory, as described by Kelly, 1974, attempts to classify what personal characteristics such as physical, personality, and mental are associated with leadership success. Trait theory relies on research that relates various traits to the success of a leader. Some researchers analyze traits such as appearance, aggressiveness, self-reliance, persuasiveness, and dominance are a set of traits that all successful leaders possess. The trait theory gives constructive information about leadership. And the most important leadership qualities or traits for success as a manager are integrity, industriousness, and the ability to get along with people. It can be applied by people at all levels in all types of organizations. Managers can utilize the information from the theory to evaluate their position in the organization and to assess how their position can be made stronger in the organization. They can get an in-depth understanding of their identity and the way they will affect others in the organizations. This theory makes the manager aware of their strengths and weaknesses, and thus they can get an understanding of how they can develop their leadership qualities. Here are some examples of leadership traits. These are leadership traits or qualities that the leader must possess. According to Stugdill, 1948, the traits and qualities are intelligence, insight, self-confidence, alertness, responsibility, initiative or may pagkukusa, persistence, hindi madaling sumuko, and sociability, the ability to get along with others. And according to Mann, the leaders must possess the traits of intelligence, masculinity that emphasizes power, such as strength, courage, independence, leadership, and assertiveness. Adjustment, dominance, or the ability to influence others. Extraversion or extroverts who loves hanging out with other people. These people are likely talkative. And lastly, conservatism. These are the ones that supports emphasis on traditions and relies on the individual. At sa paglipas ng maraming taon, nag-iiba at nadaragdagan ang mga qualities and traits na sinasabi ng mga tao or expert. And according to Zakharov, Kemp, and Bader, 2004, the qualities and traits that the leaders must possess are extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness. These are personality trait of being careful and diligent. Openness, neuroticism, or overall tendency toward negative emotions, honesty, integrity, charisma, or the ability to attract or charm others to inspire, intelligence, creativity, achievement, motivation, need for power, oral and written communication, interpersonal skills, and lastly, general problem solving. And now let's move forward to the strengths and weaknesses of trait theory. But first, let's talk about its strengths. According to Nordhaus, 2013, trait theory adds to leadership knowledge in three valuable ways. The first one is it builds on the premise that leaders are distinctive. Distinctive kasi hindi lahat ng tao ay magkakapareho ng tinataglay na quality of traits. Katulad na lang ng self-confidence. Hindi lahat ng tao ay may self-confidence. Yung iba nahihiya or hindi believe sa kanilang sarili. And another example is being competitive. Hindi lahat ng tao competitive. Yung iba mahihiyain at katulad na lang din sa pamilya. Even though we share many genes, we all have different personalities because we all possess these different traits. Traits are simply the one that makes us unique to other people. The next one is, unlike all other leadership theories, trait theory boasts a century of research to confirm the approach. The traits approach was a challenge by researchers that question the universality of leadership traits. The traits are very complicated in terms of being a leader with specific leadership traits. For example, an individual with a leadership traits who was a leader in one situation may not be a leader in another situation. The trait approach has generated much interest among researchers for its explanation of how traits influence leadership. But in fact, personality traits do affect leadership style. And that's why researchers spent a century learning about the trait theory and they are proud of it. The last one is trait theory provides benchmarks for identifying leaders. It provides benchmarks because a certain traits can identify a person, especially if that person possesses leadership traits. Traits is basically defines what kind of person an individual is, whether he is effective or a great leader or not. And together, the strengths of trait theory demonstrate the value of theory has provided to the study of leadership. Now, let us know the weaknesses of trait theory. There are also four flaws of trait theory. While being one of the earliest leadership theories, there are still fundamental issues with the theory explained below. Ang una ay it's a leader-centric and only focuses on the leader, not the follower or the situation. It's a leader-centric kasi it's only focuses on the leader nga. Kasi pinag-usapan lang dito yung kung ano merong leadership traits or qualities ang tinataglay ng isang leader, hindi ang follower or any situation na kinalalagyan nila. The next one is Some findings are ambiguous and subjective, leading to uncertainty in the validity of the approach. Ambiguous or hindi tiyak kasi ang traits are complicated kasi hindi nila tiyak or sigurado kung paano mag-behave ang isang leader na may tinataglay na isang leadership traits. At next, much of the trait theory research fails to look at how specific traits influence leadership outcomes such as performance, productivity, and employee satisfaction. So, ayun nga, nag-fail sila o hindi na nakita kasi nga, hindi naman lahat ng traits is suitable for leading an organization to increase its performance, productivity, and even employee satisfaction. Kasi nga, hindi lahat ng traits is nakatulong sa isang leader sa kanyang pinamumunuan. And the last one is, since traits are innate, it becomes unusual for training and development purposes. Since innate na siya, yung specific traits na meron yung isang tao, hindi na kailangan pang dumako sa isang training or pag-aralan pa niya or i-develop kasi nga, tinataglay niya na ito. And now let's move forward to another theory, the behavioral theory. And now let us define what is behavioral theory. Behavioral leadership theory argues that the success of a leader is based on their behavior or ugali rather than their natural attributes or traits. Behavioral leadership theory involves observing and evaluating a leader's actions and behaviors when they are responding to a specific situation. This theory believes that leaders are made, not born. Kabaliktaran ito na sinasabi ng the Great Theory and Trait Theory. Proponents of this theory suggest that anyone can become an effective leader if they can learn and implement certain behaviors. So, this is a good news for individuals who do not think they are natural leaders or it means that it is possible to learn skills in order to be a successful leader. This theory promotes the idea that all leaders are capable of learning and developing through adopting beneficial behaviors and performing them in their workplace. Behavioral leadership theory also encourages leaders to be self-aware of their behavior and to recognize how it affects the productivity and morale of their team. In other terms, the behavioral leadership theory focuses on how leaders behave and assumes that these traits can be copied by other leaders, sometimes called the style theory. It suggests that leaders aren't born successful but can be created based on learnable behavior. And now let's move forward to the types of behavioral leadership. There are several key styles of behavioral leadership. Each one involves a different set of behaviors and may be more or less effective in certain work environments. The first one is people-oriented leaders. This focuses on behaviors that allow them to meet the needs of the people they interact with, including supervisors, employees, and clients. In other words, people-oriented leader focuses on creating overall success by building lasting relationship with his employee. This type of leader does not care about tasks and schedules, but she believes that work culture is more important. The next one is task-oriented leaders. These are primarily focuses on setting goals and achieving objectives, and thrive in a well-structured environment and often show authoritative in behavior. In other terms, task-oriented leadership focuses on achieving goals. They delegate assignments, set clear processes, and issue deadlines to ensure all team members remain focused and deliver their part of the project within the designated time. The next one is participative leaders. These make an effort to include their entire team in decision-making processes. They ensure that they all work together to make a decision, and they prioritize active communication, collaboration, and feedback. Next one is status quo leaders. Status quo leaders make an effort to prioritize both productivity and employee satisfaction. They ensure that all tasks are finished on time while also providing support and encouragement to their team members. These leaders are the exact opposite of change leaders and isn't looking for change. The next one is indifferent leaders. These types of leaders do not prioritize interaction or communication with their team. They usually oversee progress from a distance and do not contribute to their team's daily efforts. They are primarily focused on personal success and advancement. Indifferent leaders simply don't ask, or if they do, they don't ask right questions. The next one is dictatorial leaders. These types of leaders often value results more than they do people. They may pressure their team members to perform well even during stressful days or challenging periods. Dictatorial leaders are often successful in delivering high quality results. And also, the dictatorial leadership focuses on the leaders and no one else. They tend to make decisions that are based on their own moral code. The next one is the country club leaders. These types of leaders prioritize their team members' happiness and satisfaction level. They believe that a team that is comfortable and well provided for is more likely to be successful. The country club leader has the most concern for people. This leader assumes that if employees are happy, they will work hard. This leader's high interest in the needs and feelings of employees affects productivity. The next one is sound leaders. These types of leaders is considered the most effective type of behavioral leadership. However, it is typically difficult to practically implement. Sound leaders equally prioritize productivity and team morale. And sound leadership is the core of every organization and solving its problems. It provides strategies to prevent problems by establishing clear communication and plans, as well as developing problem solving skills. And the last one is opportunistic leaders. These types of leaders pick and choose different behaviors from the previous styles. They can adjust and adapt their leadership style to fit a particular situation. They are goal oriented and will use whatever methods are necessary to achieve their objectives. These leaders are very aware of their style of leadership because it revolves around their own personal development. Now, let's go to the advantages of behavioral theory. There are two main advantages of behavioral leadership theory. The first one is it addresses key questions on an organization leadership model. Nasabi dito na a couple of points that can be addressed by this study is if leaders expect you to cooperate among various departments on different tasks or if teams are consistently involved in decision making to foster support or related projects. If there is a lag when it comes to the work being completed on a marketing project, the behavioral theory of leadership can answer why there may be a lag and who is directly responsible for it. The second one is it identifies the leadership style of your manager. Sinasabi dito na behavioral theories of leadership only assess behavior, not traits or capabilities. Trait theory goes in depth on how managers and employees have characteristics like being adaptable to changing circumstances and alertness in a social environment that show if they are qualified to be a leader. Executing a behavioral leadership theory evaluates and highlights the events a manager acts upon given the situation. This will determine the manager's problem-solving ability. Kung kung ano ang gagawin ng isang manager para malagpasan itong problemang hinaharap ng kanilang organization. At ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin ang disadvantages ng behavioral theory. At meron din itong disadvantages. Ang una, behavioral theories are learned process and take time. Whether you're a leader or an employee, determining certain behaviors that fit scenarios come with trial and error. Kasi nga di naman lahat ng certain scenarios ay malalagpasan nila agad ito. Siyempre, meron ding pagkakamali. And leaders have to be willing to put themselves in an environment to be tested. And they have to acknowledge that their behavior is worth monitoring. With the vast deadlines pending and clients to attend to, a CEO or impactful leader may be a difficult test subject to access. Ang pangalawa naman is, leaders have other considerations for how to manage employees. Sasabi dito na, leaders may consider power and influence approaches to getting work done and how to work with you. Pwedeng gamitin ng isang manager ang kanilang kapangyarihan o influence kung paano gawin o matatapos ang kanilang trabaho. And they have the power to control and manage the employee. This way, your role and how you operate within an organization factors into what decision you make and when. So, nakasalalay sa managers ang decision kung ano at saan ang pahihinatnan ng kanilang organisasyon. And that's all for my assigned topic. Thank you all for listening.